Hey everybody, I was here working on writing some curriculum, writing some objectives, writing out the script for a messy objective, so I figured since I was doing that, I might as well record it so we have another example of what a messy objective could look and sound like in your classroom. So we would start out with knowing our objective for this lesson. Now, when I'm writing lesson plans and things for administration, I follow a different lesson objective format that includes more of the pieces of language development and content that we're using. When it comes to the students' version of the objective, I try to keep it a lot more simple and to the point. So for this particular lesson, we are saying students will identify and describe animals and habitats. Now this is going to be the beginning of my lesson, of my unit, so I don't expect my students to have a lot of background knowledge on this, so I will probably be giving more information than I normally would, just because I know that this is going to be new. And I'm thinking about proficiency level 1 and 2 beginning English speakers who this lesson would be targeted for, probably an elementary school grade. Okay, so I have my objective and I say, okay, let's read what we are going to do today. I'll read it through all the way once, and then I want you to read it with me after that. So students will identify and describe animals and habitats. Students will identify and describe animals and habitats. By doing that one-to-one correspondence as we read all the time with this proficiency level of students, it just reinforces some of those skills that never hurts to continue to touch on different ideas of literacy no matter what we're working on. So then I would say, okay students, please read this with me, and again I want to chunk it into a way that I would to model better fluency for students. Students will, right, then they're going to repeat that, identify and describe animals and habitats. Okay, let's read that one more time together. Students will identify and describe animals and habitats. So the first time I go through, I chunk it into smaller pieces so they can hear the words a little bit more individually. The second time through, I try to stretch it out a little bit, really work on that listening memory and have them repeat a little bit bigger chunk. Depends on how your sentence breaks down. Okay, students, so first thing we want to look for are our thinking verbs, right? What are we going to be thinking about? What are we going to be talking about? What are we going to be writing about? And I see two thinking verbs in here. I see identify and I see describe. Now I could ask them to find them, depends on where we are in the process of learning our thinking verbs. Identify and describe, those are the big things we're going to be doing. Identify and describe. Now look on your thinking verb placemat, or maybe you have the thinking verb posters, whichever one we're using that day. Look on your thinking verb placemat and everybody put your finger on identify. Identify. Right? Identify looks like this on your thinking verb placemat. I would tape that on, glue that on. Right? All right, everyone put your finger on it. And it says that identify means to name something, to determine what it is. So if I am identifying people in this classroom, I am giving them a name. I'm saying who they are. So right here, I'm just going to write name to help us remember that. So if I identify people in the class, I can say, look, there's Carlos, there's Manea, there is Chloe, right? I have identified them. All right, what's our second thinking verb? Right, it's describe. Say it for me again. Right, describe. Can you put your finger on describe on your thinking verb placemat, please? Okay, if they can, depending on where we are in this with language proficiency, can anyone read that for me? If not, then I'm going to do the reading. Right, this says describe means to write or talk about something with details. To write about something or talk about something with details. So, for example, if I describe my shirt I have on today, I'm going to say I have a pink shirt and it has a pocket on the front. Right, so I'm going to give details. I might say the color. I might say it has stripes. If I'm going to describe my shoes today are sandals. They are black and gray. They have straps that crisscross, that make X's. I'm giving details about my sandals. All right, so we're going to identify and describe. All right, we're going to identify and describe animals. So what are animals? Tell me something you know about animals. From that, I should at least be able to get them to name some. So you could have a couple pictures ready. It's not really that necessary to put that much time into the planning. So animals, a cat, okay, yep, we might have a cat. Cat's an animal, right? They have some whiskers. Or a dog, you are correct. Here, your dog. There's my little dog, he's an animal. Maybe it's a horse. I'm gonna write that here. Horse, I don't know if I can draw a horse. I will try. He's got a little ear like that. His legs come down. He's got two legs here. He's got a long tail. All right, not too bad for a horse. All right, those are animals, right? You can see my horse there. Animals. Animals and habitats. So we're going to identify and describe animals. That means we're going to name different animals and we're going to talk about them and give details about them. Right, so maybe my cat is a black cat. Maybe I have a brown dog with white spots, right? We're going to describe them. And habitats. Habitats is a new word for us in this unit. Habitats are where animals live. Okay? Animals live in a habitat. So where are some places that animals live? Right? If I said one of our animals was a little, right, that's a bird. It kind of looks, I don't know what it looks like, but that's a bird. So a bird lives in a tree. Right? So that's a habitat. What if I said one of our animals is a fish? What's the habitat for a fish? Where does a fish live? Right? It lives in the water. So here's some water there. What are some other places animals live? And hopefully they can give me a few ideas. And we're like, all right, this is awesome. Let's go back and review our objective. Students will be able to identify and describe animals and habitats. Okay, read that through with me again. Students will identify and describe animals and habitats. Right? Have them repeat that. So that just means that you are going to name some animals. You're going to describe your animals. What do they look like? And you're going to talk about where they live, and you're going to describe where they live. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it snowy? Is it rainy? What else is there? Are there trees? Is there sand? Is there water? So students will name animals and habitats, and then you're going to describe those animals and habitats. All right, let's read it one more time straight through, just to make sure we have it super clear. Students will identify and describe animals and habitats. So that time I went a little further, more working memory. Students will identify and describe animals and habitats. Just on a side note, right, real quick, do you notice any of our sight words in here? Where do you see? I see one of the sight words we've worked on recently. Do you see that in here? Right. Here's one of our sight words, and it's the same sight word as in here twice. And what's that sight word? Right, so we could do just a little bit of a literacy piece in there as well. Okay, so we have a lot of animals to identify and describe, and we have a lot to learn about habitats. So we can identify and describe those as well. So let's get started.